Welcome to the Dr. Lori Marbas podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbas, and today I'm so excited to have Julieanna Hever. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. I have been following you for so long. Like when I first made this transition, you were one of the first people I found. So Julieanna is known as the Plant-Based Dietitian, and you guys have got to check out her site. I'll put all the links and everything, but she's absolutely amazing. But I want to get right to her story, and gosh, I'm starstruck. So
Thank you.
You're incredible. So I guess really the podcast is just an excuse to meet awesome people. But
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you became interested in being a dietitian and eating a plant-based diet and where all this has led you?
Yes, it's been a long journey for me. It's been a long journey, and it's kind of came from different directions. When I was always interested in nutrition and fitness, like always. I actually recently found audio cassettes of me teaching my friends and sister aerobics. And I was leading them through little aerobics classes, and at like 5 years old, 6 years old. So always love that stuff. I used to play a cereal game with my sister. We'd come downstairs in the morning, we'd eating our cereals, and she'd have the box in front of her, and she'd say, "How much calcium is in that?" And I would always guess, and she thought I would come down in the middle of the night and memorize the cereal boxes, but I didn't. I just kind of I don't know, I just had this thing for nutrition. So that was part of my life. And then I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born and raised my whole life here. So I was a dancer. My mom says I danced before I walked. And then I got into, of course, the entertainment world. And so as a dancer, my teachers would always say, I remember one time my dance teacher said in front of the whole class, "Julie, cut out your snacks." And I remember that was when I was going through, that the puberty and my hips started growing. And it was like, I was a ballerina, and it was like, you can't have hips. And so that started my whole oh my gosh, I have to learn more about weight loss and nutrition. I was interested in it too, but I know that it's the yucky part of it. But then as an actress too in Los Angeles, it's always like, you got to be thinner. It's like this horrible, it's just, that's how it is in Hollywood. And so I had in my head, I was always on a diet. So me and my mom would go on diets together, and we'd be like, we did the cabbage soup diet, and we did the Atkins diet, and we did I was fascinated by it, and I was always, learning and trying things, and I was reading like crazy. So at about, I don't know when it came out, John Robbins' book, Diet for a New America, I stumbled upon that. And that was a whole different thing, because that wasn't a diet thing. It started as that. But when I read it and I found out what happened to animals and how food ended up on the plate, I was like shocked, because this was pre-internet, there was just resources. I didn't know any I knew one vegetarian in elementary school, Darcy, and and it was like she was the weird vegetarian, right? But when I read about that, that was it. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot contribute to this. This is horrible. I didn't know what that meant though, because it wasn't like a how-to book. And so I just told my parents, I'm a vegetarian now. I'm like, a what? What are you talking about? My mom's not a big cook, and I never learned how to cook. So I was eating, Diet Coke and rice cakes and granola bars. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know who to ask. So my parents, needless to say, were, concerned, and they basically had, I like to refer to it as my intervention. And they had their friend who's a nurse, Kendra. We all went to dinner at a steakhouse, and they made me order the teriyaki steak with a pineapple on top. I'll just remember this. And I wrote about this in Vegetarian Diet, where I had to take this first bite, because she was scaring me. She was scaring me. You're going to be deficient in protein. You're going to be deficient in iron. You need to eat meat. And, this is what she was taught in nursing school. They still are. And okay, I remember that first bite, and it was like, you can't unknow what you know. And it was really hard, but ultimately I was reacclimated. I went back to normal. Thank goodness to my parents, they were happy. But I knew that can't be true, that we have to have steak for iron, that didn't resonate with me. But again, the resources were very slim at the time, and no internet. So I kept reading everything I get my hands on. And at the same time, okay, so that went away. And then the acting thing kind of kept going. And my managers at the time set me up with a personal trainer to get fit. So I worked with this personal trainer and fell in love with personal training, and I became a personal trainer, and I was like, oh my gosh, forget this. I quit acting. And then I know this is such a long story.
No, I love it.
It's a long,
I love it.
Okay, thanks. And so when I became a personal trainer, people said, well, what should I eat? And I thought, wait, I don't want to just answer, because basically I had one chapter in the personal training book that was technically my education on nutrition, besides my decades of reading about it. But I didn't want to just spit back information. Like, I know that happens all the time at the gym. And I just graduated from undergrad. I'm like, okay. And my undergrad was pre-med, but a theater degree. It's like, okay, I got to go back and know what I'm doing. So I applied to grad school, got in, fell in love with studying nutrition. Like, it was the first time in my life I was getting A's, and like really excited about learning organic chemistry and microbiology. And like, I love that stuff for the first time in my life. And it was really fun. And then got to the end of that. It took me 7 years because I built up my personal training practice to full-time.
Wow.
And, so I was working full-time, going to school at night. And it took me 7 long years to get my little master's degree in my RD, but gosh, I love that time. And that's when it all hit me. I was like, okay, I can actually look. Oh, wait, you can get iron better sourced from plants. And oh, you can get plenty of protein in plants. And all of those fears were allayed. And I was like, I'm doing this. I'm jumping in. Because then I had my daughter. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I went plant-based. My complete transformation health-wise, amazing. Like, I had lifelong sinus infections from the dairy, right? And I had acne that I couldn't get rid of. And I had horrible GI problems that I always say, I just can't believe that I went to all these doctors for 20 years, emergency doctors, family doctors, GI doctors. Not once did they say, what do you eat? Like, wait, what? Like, you're constantly being exposed to the outside environment with food, and not one doctor asked me that ever.
It blows my mind that even before I went plant-based, I would still ask them, what are you eating? I mean, that's just like common sense.
Yeah, you would think. It's really horrifying. And it still happens, you know.
Oh, it still happens.
My doctor now, she likes to argue with me about, you know, well, what about this diet? What about that diet? And,
you know. Really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
I'm serious.
Oh, Siri heard my voice. It's funny, I was interviewing Dr. Esselstyn, and it was at 5 o'clock, and his cuckoo clock went off, and he started giggling. He goes, bet you never had that happen before. I said, no, I haven't. I'm keeping that in because it's so darn cute.
That is so cute. I love when Siri chimes in out of the blue. I just think
I was like, Siri, please.
No, we're doing an interview.
This is a private conversation. Jeez Louise. No, but that is hilarious. I love that you went to school and you found your passion and you strove for it. I mean, my kids were 5'3" and 10 months when I started medical school because I stayed home for 6 years and had them. And I know exactly what you're talking about. You're just like so wanting. So I want to be a doctor since I was like 10. So it's a drive, isn't it? It's like you just love it so much. So tell me then. So now you're like a personal trainer. You've got the fitness. You've got the nutrition down. Yeah. How did you now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, how did you blossom into this plant-based dietitian? Because you're amazing. Like, how did that happen?
Thank you. So, well, when I tried it on myself first, and then I'm like, I'm going to try this with my clients. And it was literally like perfect timing because I was segueing out of personal training. I literally went into labor, sitting in my client's home, sitting on a ball, doing, lateral raises. And I said, because we had just gone for a walk. I'm like, I'm never going to have this baby. I was still 10 days early. Boom, went into labor. I never saw her. She dropped me off at the hospital and that was that. But I went from,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I went from like this whole thing where my ex is a doctor and he's like, well, you can work when I'm not working because we're not going to do daycare and all that. I'm like, wait, what? Like I just built up my personal training business. I just got my degree, just finished my RD. Like, wait, what? Because I literally took the RD exam. I was 12 days before I gave birth. And I remember they said, you can't go to the bathroom. You can't. And the guy looked at me, he's like, don't worry, you can go to the bathroom if you need to. Because I was like out to here pregnant. But anyway, everything happened at once. And I was like, okay, so now I'm a stay-at-home mom. Okay, this is interesting. I literally gave up my entire personal training business, which was really hard. It was devastating. I was very close to my clients. But then that gave me the opportunity to dive in. And so I just started reading. There was, that was when the China study was out and, and SC's book, he spoke with Dr. Esselstyn. And there were a few books out there. And then I found my people like Brenda Davis, who's written a bunch of books and she's just my mentor, she's so amazing. And so I started reading everything I get my hands on plant-based. And then I started going, of course, to the primary articles. And so it gave me an opportunity to really dive into the research and focus on plant-based while I was there with my baby, and I had another baby. And so that was a couple years. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing that's ever happened. So I started seeing clients and I started changing their diets. I started teaching plant-based, and I was blown away with what happened. But what was really cool is, you know, this really just happened. Like, it just happened. Like, I literally was sitting there, and an agent approached me and said, do you want to write the book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Vegan Nutrition? I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to write a book. So I kind of interviewed for it. I kind of did the table of contents, and that was it. And then I had 6 weeks to write a whole book all on my own. And I was like, and I had my baby. So I'm up at 4 a.m, click out of the way until the kids would get up at 6, and I go get I mean, you probably went through this with med school. I can't even imagine going through med school like that with 3. My goodness, it's hard. And this was a period. So stuff just started happening. I can't explain it. It was really amazing. And then, but this is what I was going to say is, I was writing this book, and I'm like, I don't want to write about vegan nutrition because I'm not an ethicist. I'm not a moralist. I can't talk about that stuff. I'm vegan, proudly vegan. I talk about it all the time, but I want to talk about, and this was a very new term. And I think it started with Dr. Campbell. He's the one that said whole food plant-based. So I petitioned to have this book change the title to Complete Idiot's Guide to Plant-Based Nutrition. And my agent's like, oh, that's not going to happen. It's too late in the game. But I wrote a whole compelling thing that that interview with Sanjay Gupta and Dr. Esselstyn was on TV, and plant-based was taking off as a term, I thought. And I had kind of coined myself as a plant-based dietitian way back before that, thinking I'm not going to talk about veganism. I'm going to talk about plant-based nutrition because that's where my expertise is. So that changed. So that book happened, and that book took off. It was like the bestseller for all of the Idiot's Guides for, I think, a long time, months and months, which was, I think, surprising. But I think everything just kind of happened. Literally, I was making dinner for a bunch of people for a holiday, and a producer from the Dr. Oz show called me and said, will you come to New York? I'm like, yeah, you know, like, just stuff just happened. And I got my own TV show, and stuff just happened. And I think it was just because it was like flow. They talk about flow, where it was like I was so happy and so passionate. It was just working, and everything was happening, and people were hearing about it. And it's been this amazing 13 years where everything has changed, and people know what plant-based is. No matter where you go in the world now, it is a thing, and it is really exciting.
Absolutely. So you had, or do you still have your own TV show?
I did a show on, it was Veria Living at the time, and now, or it was Veria Living, now it's it was Veria, and now it's Z Living. It completely changed. So it was like my fantasy job, because all my acting for 20 whatever years put together with getting to interview my favorite people on the planet, and talk about the stuff I wanted to talk about, and do cooking demos that are all plant-based. It was incredible. So I did 39 episodes. In 2000, it's been a while now, gosh, 2000 and when was that? It's been about 6 years, and then it aired for about a year, and then they changed the network, and I don't know what happened, but that was the best 6-week experience of my entire life, because I got to talk about everything I love to talk about. And they asked me, when we were doing the contract, the only thing I asked for, I'm just not going to do anything with animals. I'm not going to cook. If someone comes on and wants to do a filet mignon, I'm out. I'm not going to do that. So that was the only thing I asked for, is I just wanted it to be we don't have to talk about it, but the producers were so amazing. I mean, I'm still in love with them. I still know them, and we're really close, because they were like, oh, what is this vegan thing? And they were really supportive, and I got to do, it ended up being very, very vegan, even though it wasn't the idea. It was just a wellness talk show.
That's
so I had that show. And then with the same producer last year, last November, I was able to do a show on Facebook Watch called Home Sweat Home. With my co-host was Joey, and it was really fun. We went to people's homes and did transformation, and we did 5 episodes of that, and that was really fun too. So
tell people what that means by Facebook Watch. What exactly is that? So where we can find you? Can we watch these?
Yeah, they're on there. They live there forever, which is really cool. And it's a Facebook Watch is like a newish. It's been around now a little while, like maybe a year. It's a new platform where you get to do TV shows or shows. You can do any kind of show. And it was neat because we did a full production, and we were able to go and literally we just had this whole show. So it's on Home Sweat Home on Facebook. You just go to Home Sweat Home's page, and you can see all the episodes and the extra bonus content. And we had a really good time.
Very cool. So, wow, I'm going to have to, I've seen the little says Facebook Watch, but I wasn't aware of the platform and how it worked exactly. That's really cool. That is really cool. So then after you've done how many books now? 3 or 4?
My
fourth.
One. Yeah, published. The 4th one I did with Ray Cronice. We just published that in January, and we took the first book, The Plant-Based Nutrition Idiot's Guide, and added all of his amazing wisdom. Like, this guy is the smartest person I've ever known in my entire life, and integrated his papers and stuff on oxidative priority and metabolism, and oh my God, he's just brilliant. So it's like a whole new book. It was supposed to be like just an update. And it's funny because that's another thing that just happened. Like I said to Ray, I'm like, it's almost going to be 10 years. I'd love to do an updated version, like a 10-year anniversary version of this book. He's like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll talk to the agent about it. Like, he was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Like, I just mentioned to it. Literally that next week, my agent wrote out and she's like, the Idiot's Guide, the publishers want to do an updated version. Are you interested? I'm like, are you kidding me? So
that was crazy.
I'm in, and I'm bringing in Ray, and it was really fun. So that just came out. So that's a new one. And we're working on the next one. So.
Oh, wow. And Ray was a NASA scientist, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is literally as smart as a rocket scientist. He was a rocket scientist, is still, like chemistry, physical chemistry, and he just innovates. He innovates and he sees things, and he is changing the world. He is absolutely brilliant. So.
Yeah. And he did wasn't he like part owner of the anti-gravity plane, Zero G? Yeah. And he's written a lot of papers to really go into deep about fasting, and he always experiments on himself. That's fascinating stuff. Ray he's incredible. Just very bright
himself. Yeah.
Yes.
I've never met anyone like him ever. Yeah. Not even close.
And he speaks a few sentences like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to process what you were saying. 1 second. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then you're a mom, you're the dietitian, plant-based dietitian, you're traveling, you're speaking. So where do you see all of this going? Like, where would you like to see it? Like, do you want to go back and have your own TV show? Like, or what do you want to do? Like, what would be your ultimate dream to see the plant-based world and you collide? Like, where would you want it all to go?
That's such a good question. I've been asking myself that a lot. And I mean, I love that I'm collaborating now with Ray, because we are doing everything together now. And I've never had that before. So that's exciting. Like, we are doing now trips. We're going to do our first retreat in Thailand in January.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we went to Thailand this year, and it was amazing. Like, we're setting up this whole retreat thing, and we want to, give talks there, but we're going to do this special retreat in a 5-star resort. I'm like, it was just amazing. So we're going to do some of that stuff. We are working on new books together. We have it's going to be a cookbook. So that's going to be the next one. And research. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to do research. Like, I was really excited to do my first paper with the Permanente journal, which was a physician's guide to plant-based diets. And then I collaborated with Ray on this last one in the Journal of Geriatric Cardiology. And now we're talking in talks with NIH to do a clinical trial, which would be extraordinary. And we have 2 other papers that we are working on right now that need to get done that are really disruptive as well. So I want to do all of it. Like, I want to do that. I love TV. I'm always, I'm interested in being able to talk to people and teach people. And I still, I counsel. I see clients all over the world from here, like on Skype and FaceTime and phone. And we have a coaching company that we're doing together. So we're coaching people on lifestyle transformation. So I just want everyone to eat plants, and I'll do it however I can. Like, if it's whatever medium it is, whether it's TV or one-on-one or research papers that are inspiring healthcare professionals and researchers, it's going and it's happening. And I want to do all of it.
And so don't you feel like we're riding the wave? It seems that that's what's going on, at least in my world, or maybe it's my little silo that I built for myself.
No, it's changed dramatically in 13 years. Like, it is a completely different world. I mean,
yeah,
everywhere from the market to the, restaurants to food industry to research to healthcare professionals. It is changing.
Absolutely.
And it's palpable and undeniable at this point.
Absolutely. I know even in the last 6.5 years, because when I went to a plant-based diet, and it was because of a patient encounter that was just extraordinary, but there was no resources for a physician to change. So the first book I read was, the China study. I read it in 2 days, and
wow.
I was absorbed, and I was like, how do I do this? Like, how do I teach patients? And then they don't teach you, you missed the whole section on how do I decrease medications. It's like you have to go backwards thinking, like, wow, so when should that blood sugar, when should I start dropping the insulin, or when should I be concerned? Like, how quickly will this transition occur? And that's when I found McDougall's site. He did have some articles for physicians, and that was my foundation groundwork to just kind of get moving in that direction. But that was a self-taught, and luckily I had some very patient patients that were very helpful in that transition, just as me learning as a provider within the practice. But it was fascinating for sure. And I was in Western Colorado at the time in a little town called Rifle. It's perfect. But then as far as, I know you have children, they're 13 and 11. And so tell us a little bit about what have you found that's helpful for moms to help transition their kids, and what are some of your favorite, recipes that your children like that, these are preteens and teens. What is that like for you, and how do you pursue that with other clients or people that you speak to?
Yeah, so I can talk personally about it, and I could talk professionally about it, and it's very different because I've had the worst possible scenario in my personal life with my children, the worst possible way that this could go down. It could have been worse with my family. But I could talk from a professional opinion, which is more optimistic because I have helped people go through this, and I have witnessed and firsthand extremely successful stories like yours, where someone comes home and someone decides to do this, or someone gets a diagnosis and someone has to do this, and then they all go in together. This is it. Okay, it's a transition. It's beautiful. I've seen gorgeous stories where like, yours is a beautiful story. All of your kids are involved and fascinated and doing it themselves. I mean, that's like, it doesn't get better than that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's just a quick side note before we get to that, is that when I cleared out everything, we had a quarter of a grass-fed beef in a freezer in our garage. 2 days later, I can't make this up. We came home, the freezer had broke, and there was literally, the smell and the stench and I'm not even kidding. And we walk in and the odor was so strong because I wasn't sure what to do with it, right? I was like, what am I going to do with this large carcass? I'm not going to give it away because I'll kill people. Because I truly believe that. And I'm like, right? I was like, and so my husband's like, if you weren't with me, I'd have sworn you unplugged that thing. I was like, but I didn't. And that took care of it. So he's like, well, I guess God has spoken. Like, yeah, he did. So we're sticking to it. But anyway, it was a really interesting that was our exclamation point to the transition. So
I love that. I love your story. And I've heard so many good stories too, where like, everyone's watching movies and gardening and cooking and shopping and finding recipes and developing recipes. It happens. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the good side of that is it absolutely can happen. And it's a transition for everyone. Most of us grew up eating meat and potatoes. Like we are in the United States and even around the world, that is normal. This was the new normal of the last 50 years. And it's a big change, especially someone like me that didn't grow up cooking or didn't know how to cook or didn't learn cooking skills and never knew a garden. I grew up in the city, like city. And I was not exposed to any of this stuff, Yeah. And so I'm self-taught, 100% self-taught. I was literally asked to write recipes in that book. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? So, I was like, oh gosh, okay, so how do I do that? And I just, but my story is really sad for my family. And I had the opposite experience of what I'd hope for everyone else on this planet, because my ex, who's a doctor also, will not get this through his mind. And he fought me and fights me to this day. Even now we're officially divorced. And my children are with him more of the time, and he's feeding them awful, unhealthy food. And it's really hard for them to come here where mommy's not so fun. Mommy doesn't have soda. Mommy doesn't make cheese pizzas. And, but I've been working since the beginning, since they were young, to introduce healthy food from the get-go. But it was always a battle. And like on the weekends, he would take them out. And so I've ended up in the worst case scenario, and it's devastating. I don't really talk about this yet. I'm still so scared to talk about it because it's so devastating, and it's the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And I hope to God, and I hope that my kids will recover from this and they will find this on their own, because I'm out of control now. I'm not in control anymore. I'm not in the home anymore, their primary home. So that said, when they're here, and they're coming this weekend. So I've been shopping. I just marinated the tofu. So I found the stuff that they'll like. So I know they love pasta, which they eat almost every day at home, white pasta. So here they have different kinds of pasta, and we always, whole grain pasta, or I got chickpea pasta this time. I'm going to try that this time to see if they like that. But I'm going to throw in the vegetables. I'm going to throw in, and I don't have desserts really here. And, and that we fight on that. But here I've got a lot of healthy options, and I get lots of fruit and anything I know that they'll eat. Or my son mentioned that he liked a salad once. I'm like, oh, what was in that salad? So then I stocked up on all those ingredients for him. And I overshop when they come because I want to have options for them. And I just, I have the healthier versions of the stuff. Like I know he'll eat hummus, but my daughter won't. And so I'm still working on this, because for me, it's not like, what I've seen. One of my really good friends, Drina Burton, the amazing cookbook author, she's raised 3 really healthy girls, and she's a genius at cooking, but like they've grown up eating this stuff and they get excited about it. And I live vicariously listening to these stories, but I'm just have to keep trying to be creative. But that's me. Most of the time, 99% of the time, and everyone I've worked with, they've all had success, even if they weren't all on the same page, because they were on the same page in terms of, let's at least get this house healthy. So there's a lot of hope, just not with my life, but hopefully it'll work out with them.
Well, I think also too, but they're young and impressionable, and there's the conflict, but as they get older and they go back to where, you know what I mean? When they get older, they'll look back and go, you know what, mom is right. And mom is helping us plan for a healthier future, but they don't get that now. Their taste buds will talk to them now. But trust me, the little one, Gabriel, my 19-year-old, right? So his coach, all my kids are athletes, and this one, he went on he made cross country. He's a great runner and very coachable kid. So one of his, as his freshman year, one of them made it to state in Colorado.
Wow.
And they took Gabe, just and one of his other classmates to go with him just to cheer them on. And his coach would always give me a hard time about this food. This is vegan food. And I'm like, Gabe runs well. Gabe recovers well. There's a reason. Anyway, but Gabe, they went to Denver. We lived 4 hours away over the Rockies. And Gabe's coach was giving him a hard time. And Gabe's like eating pizza and ice cream and hamburgers and all this stuff that we never ate. And he had already made, was making good choices at restaurants and stuff when we did go out. And this kid came home over the night. They stayed overnight, came home late on Saturday evening. He's like, Mom, I'm really tired. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm like, okay, they stayed up late, whatever. Didn't want to eat dinner. I'm like, okay, let you sleep. Get a call literally on my phone from across the house. And here's Gabe like, Mom, my tummy is really killing me. I was like, okay, run across the room up the stairs, and he's like clenched all over, his right around the belly button, and then it starts migrating to the right lower side. So I watched him for 2 hours. I'm like, Gabriel, what did you eat? He's like, Mom, I had to eat what my friends are eating pizza and ice cream. I'm like, gotta kill your coach. So here I am, working at this little house. I called us. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to bother you guys. I'm coming into the ER with this child who chose to eat foods that he knows he's going to get sick. So we went in. The kid, they had to call the surgeon because his pain was so severe. His white count went from normal to being elevated. He had no fever, and morphine wasn't even knocking out the pain. They admitted him to the hospital, monitored him, and ultrasound looked like his appendix looks okay, but they still watched him because he's having this elevation and rise in pain, the white count, which indicates some type of infection. It took 12 hours from the time we arrived to finally getting better. The pain finally subsided. I was like, if you ever do that again, I was like, are you kidding me? And this kid, so now he's relished in the fact that he's like, I'm the vegan. It's cool. He's transitioned kids at school and college at the University of Colorado. He hangs out. Do you know John Pierre?
Yes.
So John Pierre is a very good friend. And so they both live in Boulder. And so like John and Gabe hang out, JP and Gabe hang out all the time. But it's just like, because Gabe broke his leg this year. He had to have surgery in February. He had amazing recovery. I went to Colorado and spent the month with him. But, I was just like, are you kidding me?
Well, gosh, she had to learn it the hard way. And young enough where it's like a small thing instead of, look at how many people come to you with diabetes or advanced stage cardiovascular disease. And you're like, okay, we can work on this, but it's not, at least he was young. That's a real blessing that he had that really obvious experience. That's rare that happens.
It was obvious.
Kids could get away with a lot. Kids get away with all sorts of
stuff. This one.
Yeah.
Not this one. What an ordeal. So yeah, we have lots of those little fun stories.
Wow.
But I know we want to make sure we have a few more minutes. Okay, good. So I'm going to use you up all your time. As far as your amazing story, and I know that's tough with the family, and it'll be interesting to see how things evolve over the years. But as a mom, have faith. They are listening. I can tell you that. Trust me. There are many times my children thought I was an idiot, but for some reason now I know something. So it takes some time, but
Well, you're very inspiring. Thank you.
It will happen. As far as when you see healthcare providers, do you think is the biggest barrier working with doctors in this transition? Because I know what I run into, but I'm coming in from as another physician. How do you feel like when you're speaking to healthcare providers? Do you find them interested? What are the barriers? Is it their own eating that's the difficult thing? What have you learned?
That's such a good question. It's all of the above,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on the audience. So I could give you two examples. The Plant-Nutrition Conference, every year has doubled in size, and it's extraordinary. And actually, I spoke this year, and to get up in front of 1,000 people, like I've done all sorts of TV, and I've spoken in front of all sorts of audience, but to get up in front of 1,000 healthcare professionals, I got really nervous. But this was a very receptive audience, so that was really interesting. Parallel that with, there's a Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics group in Oklahoma. I don't know if I should talk about this, but it was really interesting because, well, I'm going to talk about it. Dietitians. So it was dietitians. It was like a conference, a state conference. And, the woman that reached out to me, also a dietitian, this is Oklahoma. Okay.
Oh yeah. By Texas.
Yeah. Meat and dairy, fine. She was like, I really need you to come out here. She's plant-based. She's probably like, she's one of the lone voices over there. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't really like, it didn't sound like it was like I don't like to do those conferences very much because I'm like the crazy dietitian. Those, I don't go to those conferences anymore because I'll tell you another story. But so I went, regarding, like, she worked really hard. She really talked me into it, and she was really being so kind. And so I went, I spoke, I gave 2 talks. I brought Ray with me. So we did our very science. It was very sciencey, deep, crazy, like the stuff we talk about, busting myths, talking about, macro confusion, everything that's really not in the nutrition books, but it's all substantiated. Everything is 100% accurate. So I got feedback. I never get feedback. And for some reason I got feedback on this, and it was like, oh, this wasn't science-based. She can't come back. We didn't like it. It wasn't. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I had papers and pictures of papers and reference of the papers. They were in complete denial because everything else was sponsored by the dairy and the meat industry. And we had our little veg group over here. So it was that was the opposite. That was kind of awful. But these dietitians don't want to give up their meat and dairy. They just don't. And they're getting paid to do so. Mm-hmm. They are getting paid. If you go to a conference that's sponsored by Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, I was there last year. I was there for a plant milk company. I haven't gone, but I went into Fancy and stood in the expo at the booth for this plant milk company. And hundreds of dietitians walked by the booth all day long for a few days. And what's their first question? Dietitians with PhDs and masters. What was their first question? How much protein is in this product?
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's just crazy what people are still saying and asking. I mean, there's protein everywhere. Like, that's not an issue. When have you seen a protein deficiency?
You know what? The only time I have seen a protein deficiency as a physician, and I am failing practice, so I've literally, from the scale of 0 delivered babies to my oldest in nursing home was 105, was anorexic or in a burn unit where you're seeping it. Mm-hmm. So literally, those are the only 2 places, and it is
nothing to do with the plant-based diet.
No, and I just remind them, like, where do you think that 2,000-pound cow got their protein? Really? Just cut out the middle cow. Go straight to the protein.
Yes, I love that. I say that too. The middle cow. Exactly.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I'm so glad that you're out there. I'm just.
It's unbelievable, and I'm so excited. My daughter's in medical school, and she's thinking about family medicine. I'm like, yes, go kid. But that is so frustrating because I have a friend of mine, and I love to harass her about these things. I hope she never listens to the podcast because I talk about it often. She's a dear friend, and she had diabetes, high cholesterol, and several years younger than me. I was like, come on, you gotta do the plant-based diet. I bugged her for 9 months. I'm like, come on. She's like, no, I eat healthy. I'm like, yeah, you eat healthy and you're diabetic. No, you don't. And she finally did it. She goes, okay, if I'll eat it for 6 weeks, will you leave me alone? I was like, yeah, yes, I will. I said, prove me wrong. This has never happened. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, she loses weight, reverses her diabetes, and she goes, I'm so excited. I need to share this from the rooftops. Why don't people listen? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. It was really funny. It was a really funny conversation. And I just never quite, I've had people unfriend me on Facebook that were physicians. They're like, we just can't listen to this anymore. I'm like, what, listen to something that you can save your patient's life? What?
It's like smoking. It's like smoking. And Dr. Greger did that series of videos that is so spot on. It's like the doctors didn't want to give up their cigarettes. Right. We don't want to give up the doctors now don't want to give up their meat and dairy. I mean, my ex is a doctor. I used to go to these doctor meetings. They have this dinner every year, the annual dinner. And the last one I was at, I was sitting at a table with a cardiologist, and he was asking me, he cuts people's hearts open, their sternums open every day, and he's asking me about protein. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Unbelievable. What type of doctor was your husband?
He's a pathologist.
So he sees the results.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. In fact, I'm going to out him because whatever, I used to talk about this when we were married too. Whenever he's getting his labs drawn, because he's competitive with me, he goes plant-based 100% for a few weeks before. He games because he knows.
That is so low.
But he believes in the moderation idea, which
moderation kills.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, that is unbelievable. That is okay. So now, now what do you do with those individuals who, when you present this and you know they could benefit? I've only had 2 cases of this. Most people are receptive because I get so excited like you are palpable, your energy and excitement and enthusiasm about healing, right? I call it veggie crack. It is like so freaking addictive.
Yeah.
It's total veggie crack. I was like, I need my endorphin hit. Can you please eat vegetables and get better for me? Thank you. So that's how I approach it, with humor and like the stories, and you get excited. What do you do with those individuals that are just so hardcore? For me, I feel like I almost failed. I understand it's their journey and they'll accept it. I'm planting a seed, whatever. But I still, I want to do whatever I can. Do you have any suggestions for those who are speaking to other people? Because I can come from it. You can come from it because we have degrees. We've got the little bit of an edge. So for someone who's speaking to someone who doesn't want to, and they're stubborn and don't, or just, I don't want to listen. How do you tell people to handle those people? Because they are difficult.
Okay. I'm going to give you my one piece of advice. And this is, I think, the best thing that happened for me in this situation. Because I was like you, and I wanted everyone to eat. I still want everyone to eat this way. What was the most liberating thing was about 6-7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when I was my head was throbbing from banging it against the wall for years and years and years and trying to get everyone to hear me and understand and trying everything, humor, crying, facts, movies. I tried everything with everyone. I lost friends, lots of, distance between my family for a period of time. Here's what I did. I said, you know what? Done. I'm not going to try to convince anyone anymore. If you want to find a dietitian that's going to tell you, yeah, go have your chicken breast and you'll be fine. There's plenty of dietitians out there that are going to tell you that. If you want me to help you, I'm going to tell you to eat plants. Otherwise, go elsewhere. I gave up. I just said, forget it, mercy. Don't eat plants. And I stopped talking about it. I don't even want to talk about it at lunch when I go with most of my close friends here, like when I'm home, because I'm not home a lot, they're not plant-based. I don't care. Do your thing. They see how good I feel and how great my labs are. But, and a lot of them end up in that place anyway. But clients, I won't work with you if you're not open to this. That's fine. There's plenty of people that will. I give up. You want it? I'll help you. I will pour my heart and soul into helping you. I will give you recipes and advice and supplement everything. I will do anything to help you, but you have to want it. That's it. And my quote in the vegetarian diet, you can lead a human to healthy, but you can't make them eat.
I love that. You can lead a human to healthy, but you can't make him to eat. Absolutely.
You can't. You have to want it.
Yeah, you do.
Change your diet. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I read books. I mean, I've read every single mindset book, habit book. Oh Lord. I mean, I've read everything, anything I can do to help. What do I need to say? But there's part of me too, though. I had a patient back in Colorado, diabetic, again, family practice. We get the plethora of every chronic disease. It's devastating. It's so sad. You see this patient and I'm like, eat plant-based. We could reverse your diabetes. I bugged her for a year. No kidding, for a year. One time I mentioned a study about the cigarettes and the smoking and consider, with meat and all that. I can't remember the exact details of and she said, what? Really? If every time I eat meat, it means it's like smoking this many cigarettes. I'm like, yeah, the card is all the cardiac stuff. Well, then of course I will.
Something like
there was something she hated smoking. And I was like, so part of me is like, never give up. But part of me is like, where is that balance? It's tough because I just hate seeing people not thrive when there's like, you're here for a reason. Quit being sick so you can get on with it, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but they have to want to not be sick anymore.
They do.
It's too uncomfortable because it's a big deal.
It's almost like people crave it, right? It's
yeah. Everything about food is habit. Everything. Yeah. That's what we teach in our lifestyle transformation. Everything.
Well, it's almost like they crave being sick. Like it's this way. It's like this is who I am. I'm the diabetic. I'm the hypertension. It's sad. It's really sad. And it is. And I was like, oh no, you're much more. And we're going to open that door. But it is fascinating. Oh my goodness. I know you need to go take care of your little ones. And I do want to appreciate your time so much. You are incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You are incredible too. This was really nice. I appreciate it.
It is a blast. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening.